You're not going to ask me what it is? I raise an eyebrow. The secret about my family? I shrug. If you wanted me to know something, you'd tell me yourself. So you didn't want me to know about your daughter? I spread my hands wide, an open book. Malachi, I was pregnant most of my freshman year. Everyone knows. It's not some big secret. But speaking of my daughter, I need to get home. Thank you for inviting me to kick it. Malachi and I turn our backs to the river, and he stands on the outside of the street, protecting me from cars as we walk to the train station. I keep a tight leash on the words that yank on my tongue. I want to get to know you, too. Phone calls. I convinced Malachi we only need to ride the train together, but he doesn't have to get off, since he lives several stops after mine and it doesn't make sense for him to get off only to hop back on. I can tell he wants to fight me on it, but we both know it makes no sense for him to be riding the train for an extra hour. The smile he put on my face is still clinging onto my lips when I walk through the house door. Buela, I'm home. She rushes to meet me, and at the sight of her wrinkled forehead, my smile loses its grip and falls off my face. Buela, what's wrong? Baby girl? I make a move for the couch, but she blocks me with her body. Where were you? I expected you home half an hour ago. I've been calling you, and it was going straight to voicemail, she says. I take a breath. Whatever's wrong can't be that bad if she still has it in her to nag. I drop my book bag. I'm sorry. I went to get water ice with Angelica and a friend, and you know how the reception on my phone is when I'm on the train. I just lost track of time. Yes, you did. Why didn't you text me? I needed to leave for a doctor's appointment 15 minutes ago. Another one? Is your hand acting up? This is the second one this month. Buela had a lot of doctor visits when she got injured at work years ago, but never this many so often. Buela worked at the Macy's on Walnut Street before it was even a Macy's, back when it was a Wanamaker's. She was a seamstress in the alterations department. She worked there for over 30 years, through several store transitions, from the first week she got to Philadelphia until the day she was injured on the job. The fingers on her right hand got caught in a machine, and even after surgery, her hand was never really the same. I was still in elementary school, and no one was there to pick me up. All the other kids had left before Miss Martinez, our next-door neighbor, came to get me, explaining that Buela had been taken in an ambulance to the hospital. I was scared shitless then, because my whole life I've heard Buela say ambulances are too expensive, and she'd rather catch a cab than ever call one, so I knew whatever had happened to her was serious. When Buela finally called from the hospital, she tried to sound normal and play it off as no big deal, even though her injury was serious enough that she came home with her hand bandaged and her fingers stitched, and she never worked in an official capacity as a seamstress again. And now my mind wants to jump to worst-case scenarios. Her hand is giving her pain. She's sick, really sick, and she doesn't want to tell me. I'm scared of her answer. It's probably selfish, but the first thought I have is, what would I do without Buela? She's the starch in my spine, the only hand here to unfurl the wrinkles from my brows, the arms that hold me when I feel like collapsing. I can't imagine a life without her. My thoughts must show on my face. I'm fine, mija. It's just a quick visit, a follow-up. Nothing to worry about. She pats my arm. I got worried because you were late, and Julio called. You know how my nerves get when I speak to him. I want to ask more questions about her doctor's appointment, but the mention of Julio puts a pause on that conversation. My father is an activist, a big community organizer who holds monthly meetings and lectures at his barbershop in San Juan, so he's often busy, and yet he's called twice in the last 2 weeks. But after how he left this summer, I've been avoiding him. She drops her arm, and I walk into the living room where baby girl is bouncing along with some bubble guppies on TV. I still feel shaken up by Buela jumping down my throat with the news that she has another doctor's appointment and that Julio called again. You got to call your father back, Nena. You know how he gets when you're slow to return his call. But he didn't call me. He called you. I bite my tongue when I hear the whine in my voice, but Buela doesn't let it drop. Don't start with that tone, Emoni. He calls because he's my child, and he asked for you to call him. Now you call him because you're his child. I drop into a squat in front of my own kid. Hey, baby girl, come give mommy a hug. Don't worry, when you grow up, I'll call you, and you'll call me, and no one will summon anyone like their king of the world. I keep my voice light and happy, holding out my arms to her. She quickly reaches for me. My father isn't a bad man. He helps a lot of people. He keeps kids' books in his barbershop to help encourage the children in the community to read. He's constantly bringing in public speakers to discuss Puerto Rican rights and community concerns. And around the time I got pregnant with baby girl, he began a food drive to help single mothers. But his passions confuse me. Although he raises money for his causes, he never sends any here. Although he cares about his community, his own family gets the short end of the stick. It's like the best of him is reserved for strangers, and it mixes me up, like batter that isn't fully blended, so there are still hard lumps baking beneath the surface. I force myself to take a deep breath. Baby girl smells like baby and soap, but her face smells slightly of old milk. I grab a wipe from her baby bag and clean her cheek. I let go of her so she can keep dancing. My hands fidget with the throw pillows and the plastic of the sofa cover as I try to get my emotions under control. I look to the living room doorway where Buela stands with her arms crossed. Thinking about Julio makes my skin itchy. He makes me want to scream. He makes my throat feel clogged. I love my father, but I also might be allergic to him. I don't say anything to Buela, and after a long moment, she grabs her purse from the coat rack by the door. Baby Emma had a small snack, but she'll probably be hungry soon. Don't worry about saving me dinner. I'll pick up something after my appointment. Te quiero, nena. Te quiero también, Buela. I whisper to the closed door. Julio, oh Julio. Hola, Emoni. How are you? About time you called your father. I know I've caught Julio at his shop. I can hear razors buzzing and the background noise of grown men murmuring. I can picture him, head cocked to the side so he can press his phone to his ear with his shoulder, his long locks in a ponytail down his back as he creates a perfect right angle out of a customer's hairline. I'm good, Julio. How are you? Buzz, buzz, buzz. You know I'm always good. Aquí, busy. Your grandmother tells me you are taking a cooking class in school and you are going to Spain. That true? Buela. She harasses me into calling my father, but has already given him a full update. Only if I can afford it. And why Spain? They wanted you to learn how to cook some real food? They should have brought you here. My father is a big fan of the island, and he is not a big fan of Europe. He has a lot of ideas about the way they treated Latin America and the Caribbean when they were in power, and believes they, and the United States, are the sole reason why so many of those countries are struggling now. And in case I forget how he feels, he never hesitates to launch into one of his history lessons. You know that just because they were un poder colonial doesn't mean they are the center of the world, right, Emoni? What have I always told you? Be proud of who you are so you don't have to imitate or bow down to your oppressor. Oh, man. Julio's clippers have turned off, which lets me know if I don't jump in right now, I'll be on the phone for an hour, hearing a rant on how we are taught to idolize international superpowers. Julio, I don't think we're going to Spain because they were once a colonial power. I think it's because my instructor really loves Spanish cuisine. Pfft, everything they know how to make over there, they learned over here. Probably not everything. I'm sure there has been an exchange of cuisine back and forth, especially with spices, but I doubt every dish was made in Puerto Rico first. Most of my father's beliefs are based on hard facts that every now and then are seasoned with hyperbole. He must tell I'm not going to answer him, because after a moment he changes the subject. How's my little love doing? I describe baby girl's daycare and the new words she's learning. He summarizes the biography on Roberto Clemente he read recently. By the time he tells me he needs to get off the phone, I'm sure he's cut 2 heads and has started on a 3rd. But still, when we hang up, neither one of us says, I love you. Neither one of us says, I miss you. Neither one of us says, just come live here with me. He doesn't say, I'm sorry for leaving. And I don't say, I'm so angry you left. School. All right, folks, I know that we've been talking about where you're applying, and I'll be circling around to conference with each of you on your selections. While you're waiting, go ahead and fill out the survey in front of you with different majors, job opportunities, and fields to consider. I give a head nod to Malachi, who walks in late. Before we went our separate ways on the train, he saved his number on my phone. I texted him after I spoke with Julio and let him know I got in okay, but he didn't respond until an hour later, and by then I was making dinner, then bathing baby girl before bed, and then sliding straight into my homework. I never did manage to text him back. The water ice date was nice, but Buela's reaction to my being out so long was a reminder I don't have time to waste chopping it up and flirting with boys. I stare at Miss Fuentes' questionnaire, filling in answers about my temperament, ideal work schedule, desired income, and experience. I'm on the 3rd page when Miss Fuentes sits down at the empty desk next to me. Hey, Ms. Santiago, what are you thinking? I shrug. I know we've talked about it a little, but the guidance counselor says my grades leave a lot to be desired. She thinks the majority of the schools in the city I was looking into might be a reach. I'm wondering if it makes more sense to get a good job after high school and focus on that instead of this application. Because of Emma? I hesitate for a second. Because saying baby girl is the reason would be easier. But I don't know if it's the whole truth. I can't ask my grandmother to take care of baby girl forever. I don't want my grandmother to do that. I want to be able to take care of my own, and the only thing I would want to study is culinary arts. But why try to learn that in a school when I could learn it in a real restaurant where I'm making money instead of spending it? I can tell that Miss Fuentes doesn't like that answer. She frowns so hard her brows meet in the middle. Don't you think it'll be better in the long run for your family if you have a college degree? Then if cooking doesn't work out, you have other options. I just want you to make something of yourself, Miss Fuentes says. I almost suck my teeth. I love Miss Fuentes, but sometimes she says real stupid shit. I think there are a lot of ways to make something of yourself and still support your family. College isn't the only way. She nods. Of course. I'm sorry if what I said came across wrong. I just want you to apply to college so, come April, at least you have the option of deciding to do something else. At least then you'll have choices. And who knows, your mindset about school might change in a few months. I look at Miss Fuentes. She's young, maybe early 30s, not like a lot of the teachers at the school. And she's hip to most things like fashion and music, but she doesn't have a kid. She doesn't have a grandmother who spent the last 35 years raising a son, and then her son's kid, and now her son's kid's kid. No, Miss Fuentes has a job that she seems to like, and she can afford nice perfume and cute outfits and pretty manicures and to give out advice nobody asked for. I don't tell Miss Fuentes that I just don't think more school is for me, that I'd rather save my money for my daughter's college tuition instead of my own, that when I think of my hopes and dreams, I don't think I can follow them from a classroom, that my hopes and dreams seem so far out of reach I have to squint to see them, so how could I possibly pursue them? Going places. Angelica, this is amazing. I look at the mock-up album cover she created for a rapper who graduated last year. He has a mixtape coming out in a month, and everybody who's gone to Schaumburg knows if you need artwork done for a project, Angelica is your girl. She's had this side hustle for years, and it's one of the ways she's able to keep herself dressed like she's in her own reality TV show. Angelica has her peanut butter sandwich halfway to her mouth. You like it? It was something light. He didn't have much of a budget to work with. I shake my head. Angelica's something light is something most people would frame. The cover shows a hand-drawn version of the rapper. The skyline behind him etched in pencil ends in an elegant loop that spells out the album's name. This is too good for just a mixtape. And for a moment, I get a lump in my throat. Angelica is going to be something big one day. She's going to be the go-to person for famous people's art. And I'm so hyped for her. And I'm also going to still be here, left behind. I force myself to smile. If you don't get a full scholarship, I'll fight the admissions officers myself. Your portfolio must be 100 times better than the other applicants. She shrugs and takes a bite of her sandwich. Let's hope so, girl. I mix soy sauce, ketchup, and a packet of sugar and try and make a mock Korean barbecue sauce for my chicken nuggets. Angelica puts her hand on mine. Stop playing with your food, Emoni. You only play with your food when you're upset. What's wrong? And now it's my turn to shrug. I guess it's a lot of things. My father called last night, and although we had a long conversation, I just don't know. I'm still mad at him. Buela has been having all these doctor appointments, and she says it's nothing, but I don't believe her. She won't meet my eyes when she says it, and I don't know what to do about college. I don't mention the mixed-up feelings I've been having about Malachi. You got a lot going on. I hope Abuela Gloria is okay. Maybe her doctor's appointments are just checkups or something? What was Miss Fuentes saying about college? Mr. Goldberg was going on and on about the college applications and how we're going to have to start turning those in. Jesus, it's not even November yet. Yeah, but it's the middle of October next week. And before you know it, it'll be December when everything is due to the guidance counselor for review. I say, the deadlines are all engraved into my mental calendar. I just don't know what I'm going to do about them. What are you going to be for Halloween? Angelica asks, finishing off her sandwich. Huh? I laugh. She's always been that way, able to jump around from subject to subject and know exactly when to switch it up on me. But I know that she's also trying to take my mind off of problems that I can't fix, and she can't either. What day of the week is it this year? Thursday, Angelica says, checking her phone calendar. I shake my head. I usually work Thursdays, but maybe I need to start thinking about what I'll dress baby girl as in case Buela wants to take her out. Angelica's eyes widen, and I glance around to see what she's looking at. We should make her a costume. It'll be so cute. I laugh again and eat another chicken nugget as Angelica sketches costumes on a napkin. The laughter helps ease the weight on my chest, and the sauce tastes just a little bit sweeter. Basura. The next day, I set my plate in front of Chef Aiden, and he turns it round and round. I wait for him to pick up his fork and knife. Trash it, he says, without looking up at me. Excuse me? I stutter out. Is he kidding? I look around the room, but none of the other students meets my eyes. They are all standing, waiting to present their dishes, but our usually noisy class is suddenly very quiet. Malachi is the only person not pretending he's not all in my business, and his eyebrows quirk in confusion, as if he's stuck on Chef's command as well. Trash it, Chef says again, but this time he looks at me straight on. What's wrong with it? I ask. I know the twitch in my jaw is probably showing. I can't believe he would tell me to throw away something he hasn't even tasted. It's not the recipe I gave you. It doesn't have the same ingredients, and the cut on these is wrong. It tastes good, it's well balanced like you tell us to do, and the presentation is flawless, I say through my teeth. He grabs a fork, stabs the dish, and pops it in his mouth. He's quiet for a long moment, and I can tell he loves it. He shakes his head. Cumin, basil, oregano. His eyes pop open. None of those ingredients were in the recipe. This isn't the same dish at all. I can't grade something that is more about creativity than execution. That wasn't the point of today's evaluation, so I won't say it again. Trash it. He sets his fork down. My eyes sting, but I bite my lip hard and grab my dish. I slap the plastic plate against the side of the trash bin, and the food slides off. With my hands shaking, I unbutton my chef's jacket, tug off my scarf. When the bell rings, I wait for everyone else to leave. Malachi is the last student left besides me, and he touches my arm on his way to the door. Come with me, Santi. Let this one go. I shake his hand off. Chef is behind his long metal table, entering the last of the grades in his laptop. He lifts his head slowly. Yes, Emoni? Can I help you with something? I know my anger is like graffiti tagged onto my face, and I don't care if he can see it. Why do you make me do that? Almost as if in response to the bite in my voice, his voice gets even calmer. You didn't prepare the dish correctly. So what? It tasted good. I told you before. Sometimes following directions isn't about stifling your creativity. It's about showing respect. You have a complete disregard for the rules. That's all well and good when you're a professional. But when you're learning, you need to know the rules before you break them. That doesn't make sense. What if the rules are stupid? What if that wasn't a great recipe to begin with? Why should I learn to make a bad recipe well? He shakes his head. It's not about my rules, Emoni, or my recipes. A customer walks in and asks for a flank steak, medium rare. At what internal temperature do you pull the steak off the grill? I pause and think. It's burning, Emoni. The steak is burning because you can't remember the temperature or timing, and now the customer is upset that it's too tough and they won't be coming back, and it was only a small technical rule. What if a customer is allergic to cayenne and it doesn't say that's in the ingredient list? But you wanted to express yourself at the last minute, and now the customer is sick. I could come up with 100 scenarios. He holds my gaze 1 second longer, then goes back to his laptop. He doesn't have to say that I've been dismissed for me to know it. I slam his door behind me, knowing exactly how much it annoys Chef when students do that. It doesn't matter. After today, I don't think I'll be his student much longer. Home is where? I cut last period English for the first time since I was a freshman. I spent some time out of school while I was pregnant, so I've tried to be really aware of the absences I rack up. But with only one class left, and my hands still trembling after culinary arts, I can't sit in a classroom trying to talk about how Baldwin depicts religion and race in his work. The security guard should probably stop me, but with so many seniors constantly leaving the building for doctor appointments and interviews, or because they are done for the day, the guard on duty hardly glances my way before waving me on. And so, I go to the only person who can make me feel better. Baby girl's daycare isn't too far from the house, and instead of taking the bus or train, I walk the whole way there, using the hour to clear my head and getting there right around pickup time. I peek through the window into her classroom. She's standing at the play kitchen, swinging a large plastic spoon. It's one of the cutest things I've ever seen, and for some reason I tear up. I don't stop looking even when I smell the soft scent of vanilla. Doesn't it just fill your heart up? Buela asks me. I should have texted her to tell her I'd pick up baby girl today. I nod. I don't need to answer that. She can probably see it on my face. Aren't you going to ask me why I'm not in school? I finally say. Buela is still looking at baby girl through the window. In a couple of months, you'll be an adult. I trust you with that child. I should trust you with yourself. And although her trust should make me feel better, I feel a slight pang in my chest. Every day it seems Buela is stepping back, not just giving me full reign in baby girl's life, but also in my own. And I know I should love the freedom, but I don't think I'm ready for all the safety nets to be cut loose. Doesn't she know I still need her, that I still wish someone would look at the pieces of my life and tell me how to make sure they all fit back together? I've been grown. Here's the thing. These teachers forget that I have to make hard decisions every day, that I've been doing that for almost 3 years, and that I know when they are trying to convince me to do something they think is right without them knowing my situation. I've had to decide whether it was better to breastfeed or wean baby girl early so I wasn't dripping milk in class, whether I should tell my father how I feel about his absence or suck it up and be thankful that at least I have a father, whether it's safe to send my daughter to a daycare I don't know or try to coax Buela to raise a toddler when she's tired and has other obligations, whether I should have had a baby. And that was probably the hardest decision I've ever made. No one had the right answers. No one knew if I could cut it as a mom or if I should give the baby up for adoption, if I should have aborted her. For all his faults, Tyrone never pushed me in any direction. His parents wanted the baby gone, but Tyrone told me I should decide. Buela cried the night I told her I was pregnant. Big, silent sobs. And I know it was partly for me and partly for her. She thought she'd raised her last child. Emoni, pregúntate, are you ready? If you have this baby, your life will no longer be about you. Every decision you make will have to include this child. You can't be selfish anymore. You can't put your wants above the baby's. This is the last time someone will ask you what you want before asking you what your baby needs. Piénsalo bien. Buela is a soft Catholic. She believes in the teachings of God, but she doesn't push her religion on people. I went to church with her on Sundays, but she didn't force me to do communion or confirmation, and she didn't force me to keep the baby. She just held my hand and told me to think about what it would mean. I was 14. I had no idea what it would mean. Julio was silent when I told him over the phone. Finally, he asked me to put Buela on, and she took the phone into her room. We never talked about my pregnancy again. He didn't ask if I would keep the baby or not. Without telling anyone, I went to the free clinic. I sat in the plastic chair. I didn't have a big belly yet, no swollen feet, no one kicking inside me reminded me of their presence. I didn't have anything but a pee test and a missed period as evidence of a baby. The nurses at the clinic were so nice. The doctor treated me like a full adult and told me all the options, all the risks, all the procedures. She didn't push anything on me, and she also didn't pity me. And the only question I kept asking myself was, can I do this? And I realized there wasn't going to be a perfect answer, only the right answer for me. Hurricane season. Buela is watching the news before the Sunday night game begins, while I study for my Serve Safe quiz this week. Baby girl should be back in about an hour, and I can't wait to hold her. All weekend, Tyrone sent me pictures of her and updates, and it feels like we are finally falling into a rhythm during these visits. At Buela's soft gasp, I look up at the TV, expecting to see that one of her favorite players was injured. But instead, it's the weather forecast, and at the image of swirling clouds in the south, my chest tightens. Buela and I both know what storms mean for North Carolina, and especially Puerto Rico. It wasn't that long ago that a hurricane hit the island and caused more destruction than we'd ever seen. That last time, we didn't hear from Julio for more than 3 weeks. Buela could barely eat, and I only slept a handful of hours a night. We would just keep trying his cell phone and contacting hotlines to see if anyone had heard from him, but there was no news. I spent days trying to track down people in his neighborhood, only to be told no one had seen him. I was more afraid during those weeks than I'd been even while in labor, and I was pretty scared then, being that my mother didn't make it out of labor alive. But the fear you have for someone else's life always eclipses the fear you have for your own. And now, when folks have barely gotten on their feet, it seems like another storm is coming. Did you return your father's last call? I nod. And thank goodness I called him this past Wednesday, even though that phone call was tense. I take my hurt feelings and fold them small. tucking them away in a corner of my heart. Right now, they don't matter. Emoni, twice in 1 week? It must be my birthday. I'm already speaking before he finishes his sentence. Julio, there's a storm forming near you. Did you see? It's supposed to make landfall in a week. And I wait for him to shrug it off like he usually does whenever there's a storm. He's always so quick to say that nothing and no one will make him leave his island, but there's a slight pause after my question, as if Julio is trying to find the words to say to me. I saw. Of course I saw, Emoni. We are storing provisions at the shop and making sure generators are up and running in case power gives out. The barrio has a plan, and I'm seeing to it folks are safe. And then we are both quiet, because I don't know how to tell him I think he should get out of harm's way, and I don't think he knows how to say those words either. Buela saves us both. Ask Julio if he's coming here. We need to get him a flight. They are saying this storm is going to be bad. He must hear her through the phone because he answers before I repeat the question. Tell Mommy I'm not leaving my home. This is where I was born. This is where I live. This is where I'll die, whenever God decides that should be. You gotta make your home better. You don't just run because you can. The community needs as many people organizing as possible. I nod into the phone, even though he can't see me, and we sit still like that for a while, listening to each other breathe. Part 2. The Savory. Emoni's no use crying over spilled strawberry milk recipe. Serves your ego when you're full of regret. Ingredients: as many strawberries as you can find, sugar to taste, enough water to cover the sugar, a glass and a half of whole milk, 3 drops of Caribbean vanilla extract infused with mint. Directions: in a saucepan, heat strawberries, water, and sugar until it boils. Water will begin to evaporate and the mixture will thicken until it looks like jam. Keep on the stove for the duration of 3 listens to a Cardi B song. 2. Strain the mixture so that the cooked down strawberries are separated from the leftover syrup. Let the syrup cool. 3. Pour a large glass of milk and mix the equivalent of 3 mouthfuls of syrup into the milk and the infused vanilla. Stir until the milk is evenly pink. Best enjoyed while playing hide and seek with your toddler and listening to Rihanna's top hits. Skipping. I don't go to culinary arts the following Monday. I sneak into the library through the back entrance instead. The library is nice and quiet and teachers rarely look for students here. When Wednesday afternoon rolls around, I still don't go to class. Malachi somehow sneaks off a text asking where I am. I send him a smiley face emoji but nothing else. He shoots me questioning looks during advisory every morning, but I shake my head, and he finally stops asking me about class and we talk about other things. I spend the whole week doing assignments in the library and ignoring the absences I'm racking up. At some point, Miss Fuentes will receive a notice letting her know one of her students isn't attending a class, and I know that I'm also setting myself up to fail the class. But although I never want to go back to culinary arts, I also can't bring myself to drop it completely, and it doesn't seem ready to drop me either. In fact, it confronts me at the Burger John. Ding, ding, ding. I move to the assembly line and grab the order of burgers and fries, juggling them on the tray before handing them to my customer. She wishes me a nice day and moves off, and the next customer moves forward. I pull my visor tight around my ponytail and look up. Malachi. It's Friday afternoon and I've missed an entire week of culinary arts classes. I've also only responded to his texts with one-word answers and emojis. He keeps asking me if I'm coming back to class and if I'm okay, and honestly, I don't know the answer to either of those questions, so it's easier to keep it light and simple with memes and song lyrics. But now, Malachi is here, in the Burger John, with pretty Leslie next to him. If he's surprised to see me, he doesn't let on, but she smiles, her red-painted lips like a curtain parting above her teeth. And I can almost imagine her greeting me in a circus conductor's voice. Ta-da! Here's me taking another shot at embarrassing you, bitch! Emoni, she says, like we're old friends, making the last syllable last 3 seconds. Hey, girl. She bats her long fake lashes at me, and I want to pluck each one from her face. Welcome to the Burger, John. Can I take your order? I ask him with the same tone I use for every customer. I know I owe Malachi more than this, but I just don't have the energy to pretend to be nice to pretty Leslie or to wonder why he's here with her at all. I'll have a number 2, extra cheese, the pickle on the side, the fries extra crisp, and barbecue sauce. Oh, and one of those apple pie pockets. They're so good. Maybe I should get ice cream to go with it? Pretty Leslie taps a long red nail against her chin. It matches the color of her lip stain exactly. I click in the order and wait for her to decide. I can't tell if the ice cream thing is real or if she's trying to allude to Malachi's and my ice cream date. No ice cream. I have more than enough without it. I raise an eyebrow at Malachi but don't say anything. I'll have a number 5 with a cup of tap water. I punch his order in. Together or separate? Pretty Leslie giggles. Together. Oh, Emoni, it must be so nice to work with food even though you quit our class. I'm sure you learn a lot here. Malachi raises an eyebrow at her and moves toward the far wall, but she doesn't budge. I smile at Pretty Leslie. I appreciate your concern. When your order is ready, it will be handed to you over there. I point to the receiving counter. She walks away, making sure I see the smirk on her face. Emoni, stop fraternizing with the customers, even if they are your friends from school, Steve says from behind me. I sigh and look at the next customer. Welcome to the Burger, John. Can I take your order? Forgiveness. Buela is watching TV on the couch when I get home. I drop my book bag on the coat rack, kiss her forehead, and walk into my room, where baby girl is already asleep in her crib. Recently, she's been pulling herself halfway over the railing, and I know she'll be climbing in and out soon. I scan the space. I don't know how we're going to fit another bed in here, but we are going to have to figure it out sometime down the line. Maybe I can angle mine and have a cool diagonal room set up. I rub her dark hair from her forehead before placing a kiss on each eyebrow. It's technically Tyrone's weekend, but he and his family are traveling to a funeral, and I didn't feel comfortable with them taking baby girl, so we switched this weekend's visit to next week. I'm so glad she'll be home with me. When I go back into the living room, Buela pats the seat of the couch beside her. How was your day, Nena? Long. The bus was running late, or I would have been home in time to put her to bed. Thank you for doing that. Was she good? She was fine. I nod and close my eyes. Your father called. She puts a hand up before I can say anything. He's fine. It had nothing to do with the storm. He was asking for you to call him. I know, he can just call you on your cell phone. I told him that. But he says you're the child, etc. I laugh and open my eyes. That man is hilarious. Who does he think he is? Buela raises an eyebrow. Your father, and you know his brain's scattered dealing with the coming storm. I nod. Buela and I do not see eye to eye when it comes to my father, but I know in this moment she's right. Emoni Jose, you have a lot of hard feelings about him. You can't hold that anger inside. I'll give him a call later and make sure he doesn't need anything. But when I grab my phone, it's to call Angelica. Hey, Jelly, I'm going shopping in the morning for the groceries. This is your last chance to change the menu. I've had her dinner all planned out for weeks, and tomorrow I get to put those plans together. Jelly left the money I need to buy the supplies in our locker, and what I have planned for her is better than even she could imagine. I don't want to change anything, just make sure it's fancy, something you're learning about in class. I haven't told her yet. I haven't told her or Buela that I've stopped going to class. I got you. Great. I've already started planning baby girl's Halloween costume, so it'll be even. Angelica, we'll always be even in my book. No owing here. And I don't have to see her smile to know it's there. Sisterhood. When the baby bump began to show, the kids at school and around the way began to talk shit. I know I'm supposed to be working on my cursing, but there's really no other way to put it. We'd had pregnant girls in school before, but it was like I was something brand new. Maybe because I was young and petite, yet by the end of freshman year I looked like a basketball was trying to set itself free from inside my belly. Maybe because people thought I was conceited, since I mostly kept to myself. Maybe because even though Tyrone didn't go to our school, most of the girls at Schaumburg Charter knew him or had heard about him, and no one could really figure out why he'd chosen to get with me. The snide comments and behind-my-back chatter was happening before Angelica came out, when all the guys on the football team were trying to bag her, and the girls all wanted her to sit with them at lunch. I waited for her to start talking mess, too, because it's just the way things seemed to go, even if we'd been friends forever. But if we'd been close before, we became even closer then. Angelica? She shut that mess all the way down. Anytime she heard a whisper of someone talking about me, she was in their face. If a guy made a comment about me being a hoe, she cursed him out and never spoke to him again. When she told me she was a lesbian, I asked her if she'd had a crush on me, if that was why she'd been so hell-bent on defending me. Ew, no, she said, her face twisted as if she smelled weak old milk. That'd be like incest or something. Do you have a crush on everyone you're friends with or defend? I learned a lot about what it meant to be a fierce friend, to protect someone and learn more about what it was like to walk in their shoes. When she did come out junior year, I held her down like she did me, walked beside her when people talked behind their hands, made sure to get to our locker every day before she did and pull off any ugly post-its kids had taped there. And when people had the balls to ask if we were girlfriends, I held her hand tight, the way she'd held mine when I was pregnant and scared, and we walked down the halls together, and folks learned quick. If they had a problem with Angelica, they could mix me, and if they had a problem with me, they were facing two of us. And ain't that what it means to be a sister? Holding things tight when the other one is falling apart? Invitations. Hello, Santi? I raise an eyebrow and stare at my cell phone. I don't usually answer unknown numbers, but I was so busy organizing the groceries for Angelica's dinner, I answered without thinking. Malachi? The laugh he gives after isn't his usual suave one, and I wonder if he's nervous. For some reason, I feel myself soften at the thought of Malachi anxiously dialing my number. I glance around the kitchen, knowing it's the most private place in the apartment, unless I want to hide in the bathroom. I pull out the small chair from the corner table and sit. What number are you calling me from? It's the house phone at my aunt's. My cell is acting up and I wanted to speak to you. Oh. I wonder if I would have picked up if I'd known it was Malachi. I picture how he looked at the Burger John when Pretty Leslie kept putting me on the spot. What's up, Malachi? There's a long pause on the other end of the phone. I just wanted to apologize for yesterday, for Leslie. She was out of line. I never meant to make you uncomfortable. Not a problem. I don't feel uncomfortable for working at a food spot or otherwise. I've had a lot of things to feel ashamed about, and I've learned most of them are other people's problems, not mine. We're both quiet for a moment. I hadn't meant to say that. For some reason, I always say more than I need to whenever Malachi is the one listening. He clears his throat. I was hoping I could see you, that we could talk. What, Pretty Leslie is busy? As soon as I say it, I wish I could bite my tongue. It's not my business what he does with Pretty Leslie. I shouldn't have even mentioned her at all. See, my mouth out here sprinting across every yard line and thinking it runs itself. Malachi is quiet a long moment, and when he speaks, he sounds like his familiar self for the first time during this conversation. What, you jealous? I thought we weren't even friends. Nope, I shouldn't have said anything. Just don't want you feeling like you're out here juggling girls. If you're trying to get with her, I hope you aren't trying to get with me. I don't feel that way at all. I'm not trying to juggle anyone. I don't know why Leslie acts the way she does around you, but she's different with me. She's my friend. That's all. I shake my head. Dudes can be real oblivious sometimes. That might be all it is for you, but trust me, I've known about Pretty Leslie since middle school. She isn't nice to people for the sake of it. She likes you. Malachi sighs. And I like her, as a friend. She's gone through a lot in her life, and I think we relate to one another, but I'm not trying to get with her like that. So can I? Kick it with you, I mean? There's a lot more I want to ask about his relationship with Pretty Leslie. Has she gone through a lot? Every time I see her, she's pouting and flipping her bangs and seems like the only care she has is what nail color she should wear next. But against my better judgment, I reply, I'm home with my daughter and grandmother all day, cooking for an event this evening. Maybe I can come by and help? Everyone needs a sous chef sometimes, right, Chef Santi? Sous chef. So, este Malachi from school. What do you know about him? Buela asks. She's at the kitchen sink, washing the dishes from lunch as I feed baby girl the last of her food. And by feed, I mean I'm trying to get her to stop playing with the rice kernels in her bowl and actually get them into her mouth, where I hope some of them will get swallowed instead of just spit back out into a spittle mosaic on her plate. I know he lives in Oxford Circle with his aunt, and he's originally from New Jersey. He's a senior like me and transferred in last month. I know he has a sense of humor. Is he kind? Buela turns the water off and dries the last of the dishes before folding the towel over the sink. Baby girl dodges another spoonful of food. Yeah, he is kind. Very polite. She nods. So, you're dating? I almost dropped the spoon. No, Buela. Jesus, we're just friends. Not even that, just classmates. When have you known me to date anyone since Tyrone? Buela has her back to me, but she's completely still. Okay. I just think baby Emma's a little young for you to start bringing more boys around. I put the spoon down. Even after what I told Malachi about shame, Buela's words land like a slap. I swallow and keep my voice soft and neutral when I say, I'm not bringing more boys around. He's just going to help me make this meal for Angelica and Laura. I don't even know if I'm introducing him to baby girl. Buela nods and hands me a napkin. I wipe rice from baby girl's chin. So, have you made this before? Malachi asks as he pulls the pot of pasta off the fire. I almost called him and told him not to come. After the talk with Buela, I realized this could become more drama than it's worth. But by then he was probably already on his way and it didn't make sense. Or maybe I still wanted him to come through. All I know is that he's here. Nope, it's my aunt's recipe, but I'm going to give it something extra. You always do. That's probably why Chef Aiden gets so angry. I shrug. He won't have to be angry anymore. He has all the little soldiers he needs. I give him a 2-finger salute. He shakes his head and opens the fridge to place the butter back. I add the last of the seasonings on the fillet and turn to get a large skillet. Buela walks to the doorway. She's been watching baby girl in her room. I decided not to introduce her to Malachi after all. So, Malachi, you like the cooking class you take with Emoni? Buela asks. I shoot him a look and he raises an eyebrow at me. But when he turns to Buela, he's all dimples. I don't know how good he is at silent communication, but I need him to keep his mouth shut about the class. No pudding jokes, no threesome jokes, no trash it jokes, and most definitely not the truth, that I haven't been going to class. Mrs. Santiago, I really do like the class. I did a lot of the cooking growing up because my mother worked late and I was the oldest, so I was the one making sure my brother was well fed. I look at him surprised. I didn't know he grew up cooking, or anything about his family, really. Buela blinks slowly, the way she does when she's translating fast English into Spanish. You were the oldest, but not anymore? Malachi straightens and shakes his head, his smile falling off his face. He pauses for a long moment, as if having an internal debate. The gentle look on Buela's face must decide it for him. My little brother was killed last February. Some beef in the neighborhood back home and he was shot. It's unclear if it was a stray bullet or meant for him. He doesn't look at me as he speaks, keeps his eyes steady on Buela's. I tighten my hands on the kitchen counter. My heart squeezes in my chest. My moms didn't want me caught up in the same drama, so she sent me down here to live with my aunt, even though it's less than 2 hours away. But Mom says the block would eat me up and spit me out, and she couldn't watch that happen again. Now there's no reason for me to cook anymore since Aunt Brenda works regular hours and gets dinner on the table without me. I don't know if a shrug can be a sad thing or not, but the small movement of his shoulders knocked something in my throat. The oven timer goes off, but I ignore it. Out of my control, my hand halfway reaches out to touch Malachi's back, but then I pull it to my side. I don't want anyone in the room getting the wrong impression, myself included. But Buela does it for me. She walks to Malachi, who is double her size, and pulls him into a fierce hug. She pats his back with soft thumps that sound just like a heartbeat. It isn't easy to lose a family member. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm glad you and Emoni are friends. She pulls back from him while still holding his arms, looks up into his eyes. But take care that it doesn't become more than that. I don't want to see either of you hurt. Buela has a way of letting you know she cares for you, and that she'll also beat that ass if you act up. Malachi nods and then smiles. It's not his usual light bulb smile, but it gets close, and instantly Buela smiles back, pats his cheek. You seem like a good boy. I won't get into that other one she brought here, since he helped make my granddaughter, but Chacho, he wasn't an easy one to swallow. Don't let the pasta sit too long, Emoni. Angelica will kill you. She heads out of the kitchen toward the sound of cheering coming from her bedroom. Thanks for that, I say under my breath. I clear my throat. Thanks for telling us that, for answering her questions. She's nosy. I move to the stove and turn the heat up. To get a nice sear on the steaks, I'll need a hot pan and a quick hand before I finish the steak with the mac and cheese in the oven. Is your grandmother watching a football game? Malachi asks from the doorway. Clearly he doesn't want to talk about his brother anymore. Oh yeah, she's a huge Eagles fan, but since they don't play until tomorrow, she has to get her fix with college games. Malachi's hand tickles the back of my neck, and before I know it, he pulls me in for a hug from behind. I stand with my hands stiffly by my sides, but when he doesn't let go, I lean against his forearm, and I wonder if he put cologne on the inside of his wrist, because he smells good. Emoni, he whispers into my hair. I ask. He's about to ruin this. He's going to try to kiss me or say something nasty. Boys are dumb like that, always ruining the moment. I think you were wrong. We are friends. Your grandmother said so, and she seems like the kind of woman that knows what she's talking about, even if she does have horrible taste in football teams. I smile into his arm before bumping him away. I have a smoking skillet that needs my attention, and a correction to make. The Eagles are definitely going to win the Super Bowl again this season. Just you watch. Anniversary. Angelica opens the door wide, and Malachi and I maneuver our large bags full of plastic containers and decor into the living room. The house smells of pine saw and incense, and I know that Angelica cleaned, even though the girl is mortal enemies with a broom. I didn't tell her Malachi was going to be with me. One of the things I've always loved about our friendship is how she didn't even blink an eye when she opened the door. But the moment Malachi begins unpacking the containers in the kitchen, she raises an eyebrow and cocks her head in his direction. I shrug and give her a small smile, and although we don't say one word, we communicate everything that needs to be said. Angelica clears her throat. Malachi, I tried setting the table, but I think I messed it all up. I peek into the living room, where her small dining room table is. The utensils are in the wrong order, and the water glass is on the left-hand side. Chef taught us in our second week how a proper table should be set. Do you think you could fix it for me while Emoni shows me what to do with dinner? Laura gets here in 20 minutes, and I know I need to preheat the oven or something. Yeah, I got you. Malachi walks to the little table and begins refolding the napkins and arranging the knives. Angelica grabs my hand and pulls me into the kitchen. What's he doing here? I thought he was dating Pretty Leslie. Angelica says in a mock whisper. I guess not everything can be communicated with an eyebrow and a smile. I put the oven on the correct setting and pull the lids off the sauces and individual portions of mac and cheese. Aunt Sarah uses 3 cheeses, but I added an extra stinky one to make it even creamier. I drew a diagram of exactly how Angelica needs to place the food onto the plate and where the sauces go so she can put everything together just in time for Laura. I don't know. He called me today and wanted to chill. I figured it wouldn't hurt. It's not a date or anything, and I needed the help to carry all this over. Angelica gives me her, yeah, whatever look, and opens a cabinet above the sink to pull down 2 white plates with vibrant green vines circling the edges. Will these work? She asks. They were my grandmother's plates, and Mom and I only use them for Thanksgiving. The finger she traces along the engraved vines is shaking. I take the plates away from her and set them on the kitchen counter. I hold her hand in mine. Are you okay? You nervous about your mom finding out you had Laura here? I can come help you clean up tomorrow. Miss Jackson is one of my favorite people in the world, and she and Angelica have a great relationship. But she doesn't care how old Angelica is or what gender she's dating. She still runs a strict house when it comes to having people in it. It's not my mom. She knows Laura is coming over to have dinner. I squeeze her hand. What is it, boo? She shakes her head as if she isn't going to say anything. Then she blurts out, We haven't ever slept together. I keep my reaction off of my face. Angelica is always so sure of herself, of her words, of her world. I don't recognize this girl who's biting the polish off a recently manicured nail. I grab that hand too. Okay, and you all decided that today you would. I'm guessing here. Angelica doesn't usually bite her nails or her tongue, but tonight she seems out of her element. She finally looks at me and nods. But the thing is, today is my first day. Ever. I mean, I've kissed and fooled around with other girls, but never more than that. What if I don't know what to do? I pull her smudged glasses off of her face and clean the lenses on my t-shirt. I can tell she needs a moment without me staring at her intensely. I slide them back onto the bridge of her nose. Angelica, now that you can see clearly, look at me. Laura loves you for you. She may have more experience in this arena, but I'm also sure she'll be fine with taking it slow, and you'll figure it out together. I smile at her. She hadn't had these same butterflies when she had sex for the first time with a guy. She had approached that with the full curiosity of a scientist, even though it confirmed what she already knew about herself. But this is less about exploring and more about expressing. I know how much this means to her. I squeeze her hand. You don't have to do anything you aren't comfortable doing. I'm sure Laura will understand. She squeezes my hand back. I know, but I want to. Angelica smiles. I'm just nervous as fuck. I laugh. You're going to be fine. I promise. I've put a little extra magic into my recipe so I can make that promise with full confidence. Now come look at this picture I drew to show you how you're gonna plate this food when Laura gets here. Angelica takes one look at my drawing and busts out laughing. I watch her shoulders drop and her body shake as she laughs. Emoni, that is the worst picture I've ever seen. I can't make out half these squiggles. I press a hand to my heart and gasp. How are you gonna play my art skills like that? Angelica takes out a pencil and redoes the diagram as I give her instructions. When she's done, she gives me a small smile, and I can tell she's still nervous, but ready for whatever the night might bring. Thank you, Emoni. I give her one last hug, and then Malachi and I are out the door. Netflix, no chill. That steak you put together was everything, Santi. Malachi kisses his fingers like an old-school Chef Boyardee commercial. They're gonna love it, especially when she tries that mac and cheese. There was lightly massaged kale, too, but Malachi didn't try any of that. You want to know something crazy? I don't know if it was talking about my brother to your grandmother, but I had this memory that came out of nowhere of learning to make mac and cheese straight out the box. I think we spilled all that powdery orange sauce on ourselves and dropped the noodles on the floor, and when my moms came into the kitchen, we had nothing to show for ourselves but boiling water and a mess. He laughs, and I reach over to squeeze his hand. On the street outside of Angelica's house, he grabs a bag of empty containers from me. I begin to protest, but then shut my mouth. I have to say, it's kind of nice to be able to stick my hands into my pockets and let someone else carry the dirty dishes for a change. I hope so. They deserve a nice dinner. They're a really cute couple. I face him. Not sure what you have planned next. I need to get home and make sure baby girl and Buela are all right. He gives me a nod, and the dirty containers rattle inside the big bag Buela bought from the dollar store for groceries. I look at him, bite my lip, pull out my phone. I click it on so the time projects brightly. 8 p.m. Still early. I slip the phone back into my pocket. Do you want to come back? Watch TV or something? There were leftovers. I expect him to smirk or raise an eyebrow, but he just gives me a slow nod and keeps following me home. I've always been glad Jelly and I live close to each other, but never more than in this moment. I'm down to watch TV, but only if you promise we don't watch a scary movie. I hate scary movies. He pretends to shudder in fear, and the giggle that springs out my throat isn't something I've heard in a long time. It doesn't sound anything like me at all. I feel those first crushed butterflies that I thought I'd never feel again, which I know sounds silly for a 17-year-old to say, but some days I don't feel like a 17-year-old at all. A big old dude like you, scared of ghosts and mass killers? I tease. Yup, and like someone reminded me earlier, shame is usually someone else's problem. I'm not ashamed of hating horror films at all. When we get into the apartment, Malachi sits on one end of the couch and I sit on the other, with a cushion on top of my lap and plenty of space between us. We watch a Kevin Hart comedy and chat through the commercials about school and music. I tell him about the empty houses that have begun appearing on the block and how quickly they are being bought up. When the movie ends at 10, Malachi gets up and puts his jacket on without my asking him to. Thanks for answering my call today, Santi. He leans down and wraps his long arms around me, and I feel warmth shoot from the middle of my back where he hugs me all the way up to my face. I hug him tightly back. Trouble. This boy is just straight trouble. Ramifications. My cell phone rings the next morning, just as Buela is headed out to church. Buela, can you get that? My hands are wet. I call out when I hear her coming down the steps. I'm at the sink washing the pans I let soak overnight. Sometimes baby girl and I go with her to church, but she never presses me if I'm not ready or don't want to go. Today is one of those days where I'm looking forward to enjoying a playful and easy morning with my kid. The phone stops ringing, and I hear Buela murmur into it. See? One moment, Tyrone. Buela hands me a towel and holds my phone out to me. I dry my hands and take it from her, conscious that she hasn't left but has decided to rest against the doorframe. That can't be good. I take a deep breath. Hey, Tyrone, what's up? Yo, Emoni. Why am I getting phone calls from one of my boys telling me he saw you walk into your house with some dude? I missed one weekend with her, and you bringing other guys around my daughter? I close my eyes. This cannot be what he's calling me about. Why does he have people in my neighborhood checking for me anyway? Furthermore, what business is it of his, especially if baby girl didn't even meet Malachi?